compliance
promised
with
me
the
it would be
Open
open
Public
for
Meetings
it.
Act. Notice of this meeting has been provided by advertisement in the Cape May Star and Wave on the Township website and has been posted on the bulletin boards of Township Hall.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad.
Here.
Councilmember Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Douglas.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Beck.
Here. Before we begin the work session, we do have a proclamation. I know everybody's been waiting for this. August 7th is National Lighthouse Day. And whereas, and we're touting our lighthouse here, whereas the Cape May Lighthouse, located at the foot of the lower Cape May Meadows in Lower Township, has been an aid to navigation since 1859. And whereas the Cape May Lighthouse is one of the oldest continually operating lighthouses in the nation, whereas more than 2 million visitors have visited the lighthouse since its restoration in 1988, whereas the Mid-Atlantic Center for the Arts, celebrating their 25th anniversary of opening the building to the public, have made many improvements to the lighthouse. Therefore, I, Mayor Mike Lee Beck, and the Lower Township Council do hereby congratulate the Mid-Atlantic Center for the Arts for their fine contributions in making the Cape May Lighthouse a premier tourist attraction, not only in Lower Township, but in all of southern New Jersey. And Councilman Douglas and I went over to our lighthouse the other day, and we were warmly greeted by some really nice people over there. Mike Zuckerman and Mr. Campbell, I think is his name. And we appreciate their hospitality when we went over and visited there. So don't forget, August 7th, National Lighthouse Day. Thank you. Okay, now we have a works session presentation from Commercial Utility Consultants, Mr. Fish. Welcome, sir. If you could take it over.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I know time's very important, allowing us to spend some of yours. I appreciate it very much. The program, we've worked hard to keep it very short, so we shouldn't be more than a couple hours.
You're done.
All right. So I will move quickly. If there is a question, you can interrupt me, or we can wait to the end, whatever you feel most comfortable with. All right, so who is Commercial Utility Consultants? We were founded in 1975. In case you're wondering, I did start when I was 1. And we started the business, the company started by reviewing company bills for Fortune 500 companies, large users. And they would go after bills that had either errors, mistakes, and get refunds for the clients. Commercial Utility Consultants found themselves in a very good spot when deregulation happened in New Jersey in 1999 in order to help procure pure electric and gas for businesses through the reverse auction platform that we use, and we'll talk about that later. And since 1975, helped over 10,000 clients save over $2 billion in energy-related costs. Real quick client list. I'm going to kind of skip through most of the commercial. A lot of townships. We City of Philadelphia is a neat one. City of Pittsburgh is in there. That's also kind of a large one. All right, so deregulation. Most of why we're here is deregulation. Deregulation is the separation of service and the supply, right? Delivery and supply. As long as we keep that in mind, that Atlantic Electric is always the company, always been the company to deliver. We're only talking about the supply. It's electric and gas. 31 states have some sort of deregulation. New Jersey, like I said, since 1999. And individuals in our state, when you have the ability to pick a third-party supplier for your electric, less than 16% of the individuals in our state have not picked a third-party supplier. And there's a couple of issues that why isn't it working? Deregulation, in theory, everybody should pick a third-party supplier. But we live in New Jersey. We're not quick to, maybe trust the idea of switching. Is it good? Will I get hurt, etc. So there's a problem though. If we don't switch and we don't utilize the deregulation, suppliers could end up leaving the state and actually decrease deregulation and that competition. So the state has taken some steps to help that. But first, let's talk about where we get our supply now. Who has switched to a third party? Just a show of hands. Anybody? Okay. For those of you who haven't switched to a third party, do you realize you're already on a third party? No. Atlantic State Electric does not generate their power. When deregulation happened, the BPU the Board of Public Utilities, does a statewide auction. This auction provides the power. Atlantic State Electric just delivers it. And it's called the Basic Generation Services. That's the auction that's done through the BPU. If you look at your bill when you go home, it'll say BGS or Basic Generation Services. So let's take a look at it. That's PSE&G. I should have Atlantic State Electric. Atlantic State, that's JCP&L. There it is, Atlantic State Electric. Those four suppliers are the actual suppliers now that make up the default rate. Remember, Atlantic City Electric does not generate power now because of deregulation. So what we're looking to do through Title 14 and some changes, which we'll get to, is to just have a chance to beat the rate that the state is telling us we have to take. Now, as a municipality, has the right to compete against that state auction. So government energy aggregation, the act was 2003. This gave municipalities the ability to bundle together the residents to get a group buying power. Most municipalities have already aggregated their municipal business. I believe you have done this and have seen some savings over the default rate. So why now? Why are we talking about this program now? Is July of 2012, the BPU and the state put through Title 14, New Jersey Administrative Code Title 14, that outlines exactly how a municipality can offer this new rate to its residents. So, the process itself is by ordinance. You would establish the government energy aggregation program. By establishing the program, it does not commit you to move forward. Before we really want to get further down the road, we're going to do an indicative round auction. An indicative round auction through our auction platform to get a rate to see how competitive we are with the Atlantic State default rate. And if we save substantial enough money, if you choose to move forward, we would look to an executable round. Now, the executable round is kind of the first real step. If the savings are there, you elect the winning supplier. You would pick a 12, 18, or 24-month contract, whatever works out best. And the outreach begins. The outreach, we believe, is the most important thing, is we would spend time with the residents of Lower Township in order to answer questions and explain what is actually happening. And what is happening? The municipality is competing against the state default rate and try to put a local default rate in. And we call it a local default rate, which means that's the rate you would get on your bill because there's no fees, no conditions, no fine print. So if we look at it and say, the municipality put this together, everybody who is not on a third party already, and by state averages, call it roughly 15%, the 85% of us who haven't switched would be included in this pool to negotiate that lower rate through the auction platform. Now, as we've talked about this, I believe some of us have talked about this, that we know during our outreach period, it's at least by law 30 days, in practice it's been longer, where all the residents have the right to decline to be a part of the program. And this is kind of an important distinction, everybody has to be clear. So yes, everybody is included in the program unless they elect not to be a part of it. Now, as the city officials, you'll have the right before you move forward to notice the rate from Atlantic State Electric is one rate, the rate that you can get is a different rate. And you'll decide, is there enough savings there to warrant the program? But that's just part of the program. That's just part of it. The other part is protection, which we'll talk about in a second. So the outreach. There will be mailings done. There will be actually several mailings done here in Lower Township. Description of the program, it'll have an 800 number, the website, and methods where you can, as a resident, can say, I don't want to be a part of the program. There'll be an inbound call center specifically designed to take opt-outs. They are not there to talk the resident in or out of the program. You call up, enter some information over the phone and or the card, and you're out. There is no, well, we'll make it difficult to opt out. It's very, very simple and very convenient. You can even test this out prior to, you can know exactly what everybody's in for. Also the website. They can go right to the website, check, click, boom, and they're done. That way they're not a part of the program. Also, the big part is person to person. I would stand here in front of residents and answer questions. Well, I have another question you didn't cover. I'd be happy to talk to everybody and anybody when they have a question. Now, the e-procurement, we've talked about. Our process is approved by the e-procurement program. It just allows municipalities to choose us regardless of an RFP, et cetera. But we've already been approved for that process. Now, here's the auction. The auction, we write into the auction the RFP specs, which means what are the terms and conditions? The terms and conditions are fixed rate, no fees, and an individual can leave and basically come and go as they please. Just like the current default rate, right? You can switch back, same idea. This auction invites all third-party suppliers to compete against each other. And what we feel is at the same time, at the same date, on the same terms and conditions, these people would fight each other, the different third-party suppliers, and we would get a very, very competitive rate. We would do this, like I said, in an indicative round before we even move forward to prove what those numbers could be. Kind of a deciding point, do we move forward or don't we? This is an example of a supplier quote comparison. We'll list everybody who bid it and what their prices were. You'll be able to see that live, and then we'll give you a summary at the end. We'll also be able to compare what the savings will be based on the current default rate. All right. Okay, Lanning said, what changes for a resident? Nothing changes for a resident other than the section that's highlighted on this bill. See where the arrow is? It will be basic generation services. Instead of basic generation services, the supply portion, it would be the winning supplier's name and a fixed rate. See how there's multiple rates there for the basic generation services? That would go away and there would be one fixed rate. Other than that, there's nothing that changes for a resident. What do I mean? If I'm on the equal payment or budget plan, that's fine. Any assistance program, that's fine. Everything stays exactly the same other than state default rate versus local default rate. If it's better, you choose to move forward. If it's not, you stay where you are. JCP&L, we'll care about that. All right. So, real quick, the benefits. So again, why are we here? One is protection of the ratepayers. There is no terms and conditions. There is nothing that will come back and cost the residents money. If the Atlantic City default rate through the state drops, our rate will drop. Okay, that's written into the contract. So never will a resident pay more than the current default rate. Also, obviously, the lower rates and other benefits. If we could put several $100,000 a year back into Lower Township, I got to imagine that's going to be good things over time. And by doing this without taxes going up, etc., we can put money back in the resident's pocket. Okay, quick summary, ordinance. Then we do our outreach, the winning supplier, and we start saving money if you decide that the savings is strong enough to move forward. Why us? I'll skip that. That's more of the commercial. Okay, how'd they do? About 8, 9 minutes?
It's a good start.
Yeah. All right, now, obviously questions, be happy to answer them.
We'll start with council, then we'll take questions from the residents.
No, there's another slide. I have a friend that went to a third-party supplier, they're in there. They could opt into the township plan just by making a call.
Yes, no, yes, correct, the answer is yes. So now the short answer is yes. The long answer is we have to be sure that the person that's in a third party doesn't have a contract.
She said she signed it about a year ago. It's a 1-year contract and all this stuff, but it's...
Here's what anybody who's already in a third party, if you're not comfortable, 100% confident that you will not be charged a fee for leaving, call us. And or call the company and get it verified. Because the last thing we want to do is have, well, you told me I could opt in and now there's a fee. We do not want that to happen.
This program, there is no opt-in out fee, so it's okay.
Yeah, but if you're in another third party, I can't speak to that contract.
Right.
Right.
No, this way we're trying to reiterate certain points.
Understood. Understood.
John, the other opt-in is for small businesses, right?
Yes, correct. Typically what we want to do is go through the program with the residential and then open the program to the commercial. Running both simultaneously gets a little bit hectic, so once you deem satisfied, if you move forward, you deemed it satisfied with the residential, then we would talk about when you plan on opening it up for the commercial.
I think just the important part for the residents is to realize that they'll automatically go into it as long as they're not in a third party at this point. And they can opt out at any time. So basically, the residents don't have to do anything. If we go ahead and move forward and we find that the rate is actually a good savings, we can put money back into the residents' pockets. They don't have to do anything. That will be also in your outreach program.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the opt-out, though. They have an opportunity to opt out before the program starts and also any time after. So for whatever reason we feel we've missed it, I wasn't sure, wait, I missed the opt-out. You can opt out 2 days into it, 3 days into it. You can even call Nancy Electric at that point, or call us, or go to our website. Either way, there's multiple ways if they don't want to be a part of the program.
John, you've probably heard a lot of concerns that people have about this program. They don't have the benefit of hearing all the information that you're giving, and they'll read about it in the paper. What are some of the questions that you get from folks when they hear about it, don't understand all the facts, the things that we need to make sure we get out? For example, if they're on a budget.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I'll give you the biggest questions almost in order. The first one is, wait, I have a third party. What if your rate's better? That's actually the number one question we get. The second one is really how does it affect me? But whatever the next verbiage is. And the quick, easy answer for that is your bill and your billing method shouldn't change at all, except the fact that that little one line BGS is replaced with XYZ winning supplier. We've tracked this down with any of the assistance programs. Yes, it doesn't kick you off the assistance, it doesn't kick you off budget billing, so that's really the bigger ones. One of the other questions we get is, well, my family or my family's friends work for Lancaster Electric, are we putting them out of business? And I try to go out of my way to let them know that Lancaster Electric is not generating any of their own power. All they do is deliver. And a lot of reason for that is they're not allowed to profit on the supply side. They're only allowed to make money on the delivery, the lines and paying the workers to keep everything working. So that's a big one is, I've been with ACE for, 40 years. I don't want to see anything bad happen to them because of this new program. Well, back in 1999, when that shift was made, most of these big companies sold off their generation assets, so they make all their profit just on keeping the lines working. They're the big ones.
And I think one of the things, the other thing too is, for residents to understand that power goes out, AC Electric is who we call.
Correct.
If
Nothing
you change on that, it's AC Electric will handle the service, repair. So it's the same routine we need to do to call out for service.
There's one other thing I think we need to note for the public. This is not a promo rate. If you
Right.
read a lot of the small print from the companies that mail it, in the small print it says this rate's only good for 30 days or 3 months or whatever. This is the rate. We get one rate and that's it.
Right, and that rate is for a particular term that you decide. So if it's 12, 18, 24 months, and the 18 just happens to be the best rate, what happens at the end of the 18th month? Prior to that, several months prior to, we will go through the process again. We'll put it out to bid, and all the third parties will start fighting each other again at that point, because the one who won it the first time is not necessarily the one who would win it a second time. Now, what happens if the rate's not that good the second time around? What happens at the end of the 18th month? If we did nothing, everybody would automatically fall back to the default rate with Lancaster Electric, or the state rate. We have to be proactive in order to pick a new contract. So if we do nothing, automatically, worst case, everybody goes right back to the default rate with the state.
I have one more. I just wanted to comment on the advantages and disadvantages of joining a co-op with other towns. I know we're looking at that, and I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
Okay, depending on which supplier you talk to, there's a huge help or there's not that big of a help, right? So I'm going to do my best to answer this question without saying, Some carriers, third-party suppliers said it doesn't matter if you have 2,500 or 500,000. Others, though, came in with some, well, we would rather see a certain number, but not more than. So if we average those numbers together, and again, not set in stone, 30,000 meters, but not really more than 100,000 meters. With that being said, if you're at 15,000 meters, is it the end of the world? No. If you're at 400,000 meters, is it the end of the world? No, you're still a tremendous amount of savings. But there is kind of a sweet spot. We just asked, what would be the best route that we get the lowest possible rate? And that's where we came in, is roughly 30, but not more than 100, because it gets a little too cumbersome.
Okay, I was looking at the contract, it's 2 years, correct?
Mhm.
And it says thereafter on a year-to-year basis unless terminated by either party, not less than 60 days prior to the current term, correct? Am I right on that so far?
Yes.
The one I was trying to figure out, if customer contracts for the supply of energy and/or energy-related services, the term of this agreement shall be extended through the expiration date of the last supply contract.
So what would happen, let's say we have a 2-year contract, and we pick an 18-month first one, and then we're looking at a renewal. Okay, so either way, we would end up getting compensated on the next contract if we walk through that. You could still replace us with a different group at the end of that 2 years if you see fit, but we'll probably still get compensated from the winning third-party supplier on the second contract. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll start over.
I guess, again,
I'll start over.
You may choose to do only 18 months.
right,
Yes.
in other words, you would get the full compensation for an 18th month, even though you'd only be involved 6 months, is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
Exactly correct.
Okay, but when your compensation, you know, it comes from the utility,
The
correct?
winning third-party supplier.
But you know, obviously, we're paying for it in a certain way. The supplier pays for it, but
Correct.
they're paying you for that because we're paying them a much bigger
Well,
piece of
because
the pie.
you're paying the electric bill.
Which is another, I think it's, your fee is, correct me if I'm wrong, 275 hundred thousandths of, or whatever.
Yeah, we're basically 2/10 of a penny and another 75, right? Almost, just under 3.
And I'm just curious, is that standard? Is that the standard fee as far as that goes? Is it regular, like, for instance, like cable, there's very little movement on that.
Mhm.
But are the fees set by the state, or is that?
No, the fees aren't set by the state. I'll give you an example. I think you're in the South Jersey Power Co-op.
Right.
The South Jersey Power Co-op, I believe, is 2 mils, so 2/10 of a penny, where we're a little higher than that. The South Jersey Power Co-op does not have the outreach, et cetera. So we're just actually marginally higher, and then we have all the expense of the program for, there's actually quite a bit of money that we'll put out of pocket that is just our risk, because you could, right at the end decide not move forward with it, and we've already kind of spent the money.
I
That's
guess,
possible.
the
And
South-
everybody can opt out.
And the South Jersey Co-op that we're in for the township got a rate of 8.47 cents,
Correct,
and you got a rate for Middle Township of 7.92 cents.
correct. There was 5 municipalities we pulled out of the
So
South
you're-
Jersey Power
you're
Co-op.
more successful than the county co-op.
Correct. And
Now,
then
how many mailers are we looking at, John?
the mailers, according to the contract, there's an extra one that you have in. It's an 8.5 by 11 color, and we'll discuss the contents of that before it's sent out. And then there will be the true opt-out letter. Once that's done, the winning supplier, when the transition happens, a letter, and then also one from Atlantic Electric, all along the way. So that would be 4 total.
4, that's what I just want. Okay, any other questions from council? We have, do you mind fielding a few from our audience who probably save us a little aggravation? if you can take-
Be happy.
If you wish to ask a question, would you step forward and let us know your name and be short? Yes, sir.
Mr. Fish, you can use that microphone.
Okay.
To answer.
My name's Fred Long, Cold Spring. I think I saw in the slide that you showed of ACE and the 4 thing, the word tranches on the right-hand side.
Yes.
What's the significance? That word got a bad reputation in the beginning of the Great Recession. And what does it mean on your slide?
All right. Is this on?
Yes.
Can I go back to it real quick, just so we know what we're looking at, just talk about the same thing? almost there. There we go. Okay, tranches. The entire load for Atlantic City Electric service territory, all the electric that's out there, was split up into 7 different sections. Rather than one group bidding on the entire usage of Atlantic City Electric, it was broken up into 7 different equal sections. And that's why you have 1, 2, 1, and 3 to equal the 7. Yep, good question.
Is there any other questions? Thank you. Anybody else in council? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
You're
your time.
done, you passed. We'll give you a minute to tie up your.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move down to the consent agenda. Does council have any comments on the consent agenda? We're removing resolution 2014, right? We're removing 2014.
Yes.
13, 14?
Yes. 2013-214.
Okay. For a minute, I thought you were saying resolution 213. Try to sneak one by. All right, so we need to do more work on that, so council's permission will take that one off. Does council have any other comments on the consent agenda? Okay. Public comment on the consent agenda? Close the public portion.
Approval of minutes, July 15, 2013. Resolution number 2013-209 through 2013-213. Resolution 2013-215 through resolution 2013-217. Ordinance number 2013-16. An ordinance amending Chapter 7 entitled Traffic of the Revised General Ordinances for the Township of Lower. This particular ordinance approves stop signs at Farmstead and Cape, Cold Spring and Cape, and Mayflower and Cape. This is the first reading. The second reading and public hearing will be held at our August 19th meeting. Copies of this ordinance will be available to the public starting tomorrow. And ordinance 2013-17, an ordinance amending Chapter 230 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Lower. This changes the unobstructed views at corners from 8 foot to 12 foot. This is the first reading. The second reading and public hearing will be held at the August 19th council meeting, and copies of this ordinance will be available to the public tomorrow.
Okay. Approved consent agenda as written.
Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes,
Regular agenda?
please.
Resolution number 2013-218. A resolution authorizing the payment of vouchers for Douglas Landscaping in the amount of $5,192.50.
Any council comments? Open up the public comment. Close the public portion. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Abstain.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Resolution number 2013-219, a resolution awarding the commercial utility consultant as the energy consultant in connection with an energy aggregation program.
Council comments? We okay?
I just want to commend Councilman Neville and Councilman Douglas and Margaret Vitale for getting under the hood on this very complex subject and studying all the aspects of it. Looks like a very good program for us.
That's correct. Thank you for your efforts. Is there any public comments on this? Close the public portion. Motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Abstain.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2013-18, This is an ordinance for the Township of Lower to establish an energy aggregation program. This is the first reading of this ordinance. The second reading and the public hearing will be held at the August 19th meeting, and copies of this ordinance will be available to the public tomorrow morning.
Any council comments? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. Move down to administrative reports. Any questions or comments from there? We'll go to Councilman Conrad.
I'd like to thank everybody for the involvement of the last concert, Sensational Soul. It's a wonderful event. Councilman Neville and I believe we should have some more of those like that soon. It was a good time for all. It's something that township and municipalities should be doing for their residents. It's a very peaceful, relaxing setting, and it was beautiful to be there. And tomorrow night, hope to see you at National Night Out.
Yeah, the first question, or the only question me and Tom fielded from most of the people coming out of the Soul Cruisers are, we doing this again next month? Everybody had a good time. They were a wonderful band. The weather was perfect. The dragonflies came back out towards the end of the evening. It was almost like they were on payroll or something. Saturday was the Douglas Coombs run, and it was very well attended. It was also a day where at least it wasn't sunny and 90 degrees by 9 o'clock where all the runners were sweating and passing out, but it was very well attended. And the last thing I got is, I guess from Mike, we want to cover the Rosian Avenue. We're trying to get a report from Hatchmont McDonald that we've been waiting almost a year for. It's involving the drainage in the Rosian Avenue section. And went around there this weekend, and there needs some serious attention.
Yes, Councilman, I know you've been on top of it. It's in your ward. And several months ago, the council authorized Hatchmont McDonald a $65,000 contract to start working on alleviating that problem and addressing that problem on Roseanne and that section of the township. The pipe drains from Bayshore Road down to Clearwater. And at the end there, Clearwater, we've had the Mosquito Commission go in and clean that area up, which has helped some of the drainage to date. However, the mapping and surveying is not completed yet by Hatchmont McDonald. And the reason being, they said, because Superstorm Sandy kind of took precedence of what they were doing. I've had the engineer keep monitoring, and he'll speak in a minute, give you an update. Gary Douglas, our Public Works Director, and I have been evaluating the situation. Some of the surveying and mapping is being interrupted by some of the muck that has built up over the years in that piping, that we're going to have to get our jet back and probably suck some of that out so we can continue to survey. We had a diver in there several months ago evaluating the situation. It has improved the flow somewhat, but there's still issues. We've been monitoring the road service where we feel there may be a little erosion under the road, where there may be some leakage from the pipes eroding, and Mr. Douglas is keeping a daily eye on that. He's been out, I've been out, the mayor's been out, councilmen have been out during some of these storms we've had lately, where there's been real heavy, unprecedented rainfall, and it has been draining better. I've talked to Mr. Bayshore Landscape, a gentleman, and others that have reported that it has improved, but it's not perfect yet. The council wants us to stay on this and improve it the best we can for the people in that neighborhood. We know it's been an inconvenience with these heavy rains. We know there's an issue there. We're working with the MUA. They're going to assist us with their jetback also to help suck out some of that muck. So, Councilman, Mayor, that's an update. You want to give an update, George, real quick? George is our engineer, and he's working with Hatchmont McDonald.
Yeah, as manager said, Hatchmont, they may be a few months out from completing their survey of the existing stormwater infrastructure. At the completion of their survey of the existing infrastructure, at that point in time, we'll be able to do an analysis on the entire watershed to ensure adequate capacity for today's storm events, and and determine what necessary improvements are required to address any flooding issues currently going on in that area of the township.
Okay? You know, we understand, we're doing what we can. I mean, some of the rains we've had, I mean, you know, that one in Philadelphia had 8 inches, I guess it was like 2 weeks ago. That Friday night, I think it was, 2 weeks ago, when we had, I guess it was like, had to be like 4 inches in a couple of hours. I mean, my Lord, I had water in my yard I've never seen before. And I know that you're suffering down there, and we're doing what we can. But we have to get, you know, the professional report so that we can begin to take a hard look at it and see what we need to do to help you down there. I mean, I couldn't even get into town hall. The water was so deep right out here. I had to come in through the back way. And, you know, you ride down Bay Shore Road to where, I don't know if anybody went down that night by the 7-Eleven. I mean, you could have launched a ferry down there. I mean, that water was as deep as I've ever seen it down there. And you know what happens? You leave and an hour later you come back, it's gone. I mean, it's just sheer volume of water that we've had that in some ways seems to be, I've never seen it like this. It's kind of unprecedented, but we will do everything we can to address your problems. We haven't forgotten about you. We're just waiting to get the papers back from Hatchmont. And we're still on council comments. I didn't mean to jump.
Yeah,
We fast forwarded on that. You're okay? Norris is gonna.
I got a couple things, Mayor. First off, Friends of Lower Township, proud to say that there's over 20 businesses in this area have become Friends of Lower Township to underwrite our recreational programs. And I'm promising to just thank more and more of them each council session that we have. This week I want to thank the 3 restaurants in Lower Township that each gave $1,500 to get behind our recreational programs, and they would include the Lobster House, the Saltwater Cafe, which is the new place where Doc Mike's used to be at South Jersey Marina, and then Harper Henry's, our favorite place to watch a sunset. So these 3 restaurants in Lower Township became Friends of Lower Township to help make sure the fireworks were especially good. Secondly, I just want to give a report on the Economic Development Advisory Committee, which was established by council. We had our second meeting. There were about 35 people present. It was at the Lobster House. Besides the 12 members of the advisory committee that council appointed, we've invited people to audit that and participate. People like the CEO of the hospital, the superintendent of the high school, regional high school, and other folks that had some ideas. And we had a great brainstorming session. It was very active. We got a lot of ideas. We've cataloged them, and now we're going to go through and prioritize them in terms of short-term ideas, things that we can quickly do something about, medium-term and long-term ideas that we have. And then we'll be back before council at that first meeting in September, where members of the advisory committee will present some of their ideas to improve, get more jobs, and help tourism in our region. And then finally, I just wanted to say, Mayor, that I wasn't able to be here at the last council meeting, but whenever I go into Cape May these days, I'm getting an awful lot of people coming up to me and saying that they appreciate what you said. They don't want to, in some sense, it's distance from what members of council in Cape May have said, and they just wanted us to know that they do care an awful lot about Lower Township. And we got a lot of positive feedback with regards to your statements and the way you handled this.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. We stressed, we love the people of Cape May. I stress the people. Council. All right. Listen, when we're talking about the concert over there, we'd be remiss if we didn't thank the DRBA, especially Heath Gerke and our rec department. Mitch and Jim have done yeoman work in putting on these shows, and it's a great partnership we have with the DRBA. I don't know that we can talk enough about that. Where there was basically none a few years ago, there is much now, and the residents are bearing the fruit of that, and you get to go to these concerts and stuff, and the DRBA has really stepped up and become a full partner with Lower Township. And it's fun, being quite honest with you. There's so much that we can do over there in relationship with them, and I think we've just scratched the surface, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, here we go. Lower Township is on Facebook. What's Facebook? I'm not sure. I think I still have a beeper. Visit the Township's Facebook page for municipal information, photos of your friends and neighbors, and news of upcoming events. Search Lower Township on Facebook and hit the like button when you arrive there. A photo gallery, it's like, you know. A photo gallery of Lower Township events is also available on the Township's webpage, which is www.townshipoflower.org. Okay, as we said, tomorrow night is night out at Lower Cape May Regional High School. That's from 7 to 9 p.m. And that's always fun. That's like, I like that small town national night out over there. You go about 2 feet and you end up talking to somebody trying to get through the crowd over there. But it's always a good time over there. So that's tomorrow night, 7 to 9. Now here's one that we've been pushing, and I need to make sure the papers, I think most of the papers have done something on this. The 15-minute child break parent presentation is 6 p.m. here, August 15th at the hall. Spend an hour learning how to talk to your kids about drugs and alcohol. Light refreshments will be served. It's for adults, grandparents, parents. It's not to bring kids. It's about an hour long, and it's extremely important. Some of the things that the 15-minute child break covers topics such as talking to your kids about drugs and alcohol, influence of media and pop culture, effects of specific drugs, keeping your kids drug-free, strengthening parenting skills, utilizing teachable moments. And my Lord, all you have to do is turn the set on, there's teachable moments out there. Just look at like baseball today. I mean, we need to sit down and talk to our kids. I mean, you talk about a teachable moment. If I had a 10-year-old in my house or whatever, I'd say, do you see this? We need to talk about this. The parents have to understand that you can't come back to us when you're 25 and your kid's knee-deep in substance abuse. You have to talk to that kid when they're 6, 7, 8 years old and sit down and make sure that you have this contact and become your kid's defense mechanism here. If you don't, we'll see them. That's the sad part of it. As somebody who taught kids, the saddest thing is, 15 years later to find out that one of your kids that you taught, that was your kid, is in this stuff. It hasn't happened often, but every now and then, a couple times, I picked up the paper and see a kid that I taught who was a real nice kid in 6th grade. It's been locked up for using narcotics or something like that. It hasn't happened a lot, but it breaks your heart. I can't imagine being the parent and stuff like that. Don't wait until it's too late. Talk to your kids. We're banging the drum as loud as we can. We admitted a long time ago that there's a problem in all of New Jersey about this. And we're trying to reach the parents to enable them to reach their kids. It's not complicated. It's Wednesday, I believe it's August 15th, and I'll be here. Okay, so we have that. August 20th, Lower Township Community Blood Drive, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Town Hall. Please contact the clerk's office if you or someone you know wishes to donate blood to help those in need. And, hold on now, the American Deli will be rewarding each donor with a coupon for a free slice of pizza. If you donate money.
And Dunkin' Donuts
Is chipping in with a
they're
donut?
giving a free iced
Come on,
coffee.
iced coffee. Now the question I have is, if you donate blood 8 times, do you get a free pizza? I'm in. How could you give up? That's what not to do. Okay, now here's one that I would like to see you here. This is the last one. August 9th, I think that's this Friday, the Fishing Creek School. Right? Now this is, look, they're going through a lot of effort. I hope a lot of you people come down there for this. This is the free food, music, and it's written, I have to read it, dance lessons from the deputy mayor. And it says, I'm telling you, it's there. The genre this week is doo-wop. Okay, that's a great evening. You don't have far to go, it's right here in the town. You come down and they got Rich from the MAC, and you get free hot dogs, free pizza, their donations are welcome, that's great. But I'm telling you, it's a nice evening. You sit out there, you can bring a lounge chair, or they have folding chairs, free food, sodas, and you listen to good music from the 50s and 60s. So if the weather's nice, come on down. Appreciate what we have in this town. It's a good opportunity. Okay. That being said, I had my share of airtime here, so we'll open it up to the public. If you have a question to ask council, come forward.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dan Santoro.
Yes.
I live in a 300 block of Roseanne Avenue.
Right.
This is concerning the flood matters.
Yes.
Okay. Since about 2003, I've been down here paying taxes just like everybody else in this room probably. All right? In 10 years, I experienced approximately 12, maybe 13 floods. All right? I'm pretty fortunate. I was pretty lucky, But in front of my house, I got to construct a makeshift gasket out of a 2x8 piece of lumber that stretches across the whole thing to keep the water out when the trucks go by. Okay? Some people call, because we had an arrangement approximately 10 years ago with a Mr. Douglas, I don't quite know who he is, where they were going to call and put cones out to divert the traffic. Well, it seems like anymore when you call police radio, you get an attitude. So you get used to the flooding and they hang up. Okay? That's unacceptable. Now, I was also informed, a house across the street from me, guy invested over $20,000 on this property to stop the flood from coming in front of his house, the back of his house, every which way. He finally put the house for sale. And a couple months ago, the first buyer wanted to buy the house. The gentleman lived up the street. He couldn't buy the house because FEMA intervened and said, you absolutely need flood insurance of approximately $4,000 a year if you're going to take a mortgage on that property. Now, Mayor, that's beachfront property prices. That's more than the taxes are on the property. That's unacceptable. I know you have no control over that, but I think if a lot of the flooding in the street, that would stop and alleviate some of that problems we're having with FEMA. With the flood insurance bills. Myself, personally, I went out there a few times to try to clean the culverts, like this, in shorts. Water was up to here one day. One time I cleaned it. The next day, I had to get my wife to try to do the doctor. Both legs swelled up. It was like I had elephantitis or something. I caught an infection. And I got treated by the local doctor. I think it was Dr. Kim. I had to take antibiotics. I was laid up for a couple of days. I couldn't go to work. That's fine. I kept my mouth shut about all this. Also, there's new neighbors that moved on the other side of the neighbor I was telling you about. They got 4 to 6 inches of water. It's like a rainforest under his house, right? The realtor, when they sold the property, they didn't properly disclose this flood thing. Just like my house when I bought mine. I really didn't need a mortgage on my house, so basically nothing was said to me. But it seems like everybody who buys a house in here, in that particular area, it's not properly disclosed on. What's going on down here? We're entitled to know this stuff. There was another neighbor in the 200 block of Roseanne a couple years ago. He said after a flood, he packed his truck down in April. And his truck caved in. His truck actually fell into a sinkhole because of the undermining. He says it's because the pipes are burst on there. It just keeps washing out, washing out. It does get fixed, but it's only a patch job. 2 weeks ago, the last flood, I'm sure you're aware of it, I was driving down the street. I caught the flood with my truck. I took my time. I gave the neighbors that were all standing outside respect. I went real slow. Behind me was another car. I believe it was a little Honda, a little Toyota. Didn't have that luxury. Got stuck. Right, trying to go home to get off the radio. All right, this has been going on for 10 years that I know. I'm just a rookie down here. Oh yeah, and I recently spoke to Mr. Boll,
Yes, sir.
okay? He explained to me about the study, the money, the $60 to $65 that was, $65,000 that was spent and all. I know about the divers and all that. My old neighbor, Jack Powers, who's now deceased, he brought that to my attention. And I asked you something about, you told me about the study and all, and you asked me to make the neighbors aware about the study, okay? All right. But I asked you, this was in the paper in a Herald approximately spring a year ago, about the re-sleeving of a pipe out there, it's 4 to 6 feet in diameter. You said you weren't aware of it. Based on that information, I don't know who to believe. Okay? I'm not picking on you personally, but I don't know. I mean, what's this going to take? An act of Congress? Do I got to write letters continually to the governor, emails, get all these other people to do this, or come back here with more people needing to address these issues? It really upsets me when an 82-year-old lady calls the police department and they say, you got to get used to the flooding around here, and basically hangs up on her.
Well, Mr. Santor, let me just be quite frank with you. First off, it's unacceptable if the police dispatcher is saying that. I'll address that issue.
Okay.
As far as the sleeving, that was one possibility that's ongoing. The engineer can talk about that. We're just not really sure. The reality of it is, though, and this is the God's honest truth, this council's trying to address the issue. If you went back 30, 40 years ago, some of subdivisions are in low-lying areas, and it's a real challenge, and maybe shouldn't have been built. I'm being very honest. But they are there. It's existing. The pitch isn't what some subdivisions are because of its low-lying. So we're trying to address it. The first thing we did, I said, was the mosquito commission. We cleaned out all that debris, that vegetation. That's helped. We know there's a buildup of muck, 40, 50, 60% in some of those pipes. We believe some of those pipes might come unsleeved, and it might be getting the undermining that's going on.
Okay.
We are addressing the issue. We're doing the best we can with what we have to work with. I'm not an engineer. Maybe George can address it more. Gary Douglas, who is an honorable man, you mentioned his name, our Public Works Director. He monitors it every flood. He reports back to me. I report to council. We're trying to address, we're not skirting the issue. This council's addressed to get it done. They've appropriated $65,000. Sure, one solution would be they could spend $2, $3 million, tear up the whole street, put a whole new pipe in, but we're not sure if that'll alleviate the problem. So we're not going to take that risk yet until we've clearly identified how to fix it the best we can.
Okay, but the study is underway.
Yes, it is.
I was told this morning it wasn't. If that person cares to step up and take my place and say what he told me,
Well, they can step up and take your place, but the mapping and survey is not complete yet. One of the holdups is the muck is blocking some of the area that I just told you earlier. We're going to get the jetbacks, our equipment to suck some of that stuff out. And Gary, maybe you can, our director is here, maybe you can add to it more, Gary, if I left anything out, but I think we're up to speed to date of what we can do. Has it been delayed a little bit, the study? Yes. And we asked the engineers, the consulting engineers, how much we've done, why, and it was because of their busyness with the Superstorm Sandy with some of their other clients.
well, the problem is it's not just...
But we're not ignoring the issue, and I want to make that clear.
Well, the problem is it's not just these sandy storms that pop up. It's every time this time of the year. You know, we get a nasty thunder boomer, we got to suffer. I'm sure there's other people in this county that suffer too, but I don't think they suffer as much as we do. I mean, you're talking about, you know, waves smashing against your garage door.
I gave you the best honest assessment, the history that I know. I've only been here, I'm going to my third year, and I know it's an issue, and the council wants it addressed, and we're doing the best we can. We're not going to try to do a quick fix and spend $2, $3 million and tear that whole street up and put that, might not alleviate the problem.
Well, I'm not an engineer, but if you take that street up, that's another thing. I'm an avid bike rider. I ride one of the little racing bikes around all over the place. When I ride on that street in Suzanne and maybe, I think it's Deborah, the street underneath me, I could feel it crackling and giving on a little bicycle. It's got that spider web look. You can hear it.
That's where we think, and I'm not an engineer, the engineer director, they can speak to you, but that's where we think there may be some underwatch going on, undermining. And it's going to be addressed,
Okay.
but we're not going to do a Band-Aid. We want to fix it right.
Well, okay, that's fine, because ripping that street up and putting another street down, that's a waste of time and county money.
I'm glad you agree.
And our money.
Yes.
Personally, them pipes got to be replaced.
Well, George, can you add on?
Yeah.
Speak into the microphone, George.
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now. And the reason we just, it's not a simple fix because that's one of the main trunk lines that collects stormwater from the entire watershed. So it's more than just doing an analysis on that street alone to address the stormwater issue. We need to do an analysis on the entire area because everything drains into that.
Yeah, well, who's doing the analysis?
Hatchmont, McDonald's.
Hatchmont. Are they going to college to learn a degree how to do this? Or
They're
what are
doing
they
the
gonna act
survey.
like?
And they're doing
Because the people around me, behind me, they want action.
Mhm.
They're tired of it.
Yeah. Well, I can assure you, like Mr. Holt said.
Now, here's another thing. Now, here's another thing, too. I told you about my legs. I mean, I'm a big boy. I dealt with it. I went to the doctor. But I was talking to a neighbor around the corner. I knocked on a couple doors, and every time there's kids out there, and kids naturally get, attracted to floods. They bring their boogie boards out, their little certain things, whatever you call them. They play in this too, okay? Well, it's not just about destruction of property. It's about quality of life, okay? People get sick. Suppose one of them little kids get sick from that, and God forbid die. Now what's going to happen? And it's determined it was an infection from that stupid flood. Because people, they put fertilizers in their lawn, plant food, and all that stuff. And when them heavy rains comes, it might take an hour to go down. I agree. It takes an hour a little bit more. But if you're standing in that, I experienced it myself. You can get infections. That's totally unacceptable.
I'm not trying there's a problem there, we recognize that. But I had calls during that storm from up here on New York Avenue. I know Bay Shore Road was totally impassable. And I know in other locations, even right out here, there was a pack of kids came out of the rec center where that. I mean, parents have to have a little common sense and pull their kids out of it.
I agree with you, Mayor. I totally agree.
I'm just saying to you, we're doing what we can for right now. We can't turn around and just without being certain that the fix is going to occur and put a big ticket item on the boards without knowing for sure that's where we're at. I mean, when you're looking at the amount of water that's generated over there, and we have to look at the whole watershed, that's going to be a huge project. But we have to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing. So we start with this thing, and we go. I mean, again, we used to have kind of a standing rule. If the water was gone in 24 hours because of the way the soil is down here and the way that it floods half the time, then it was not that big of a problem. Is the way that we went. It was kind of the measuring stick that we used. And like I said, when you have, the problem is that some of these rains are so epic that, it's not like you've got puddles that are going a couple hours later. I mean, it's going within an hour, like I said, on Bay Shore Road.
I agree with you, but
the outfall pipes and the piping can only handle so much. And we're getting rains that generate more than what the pipes can handle.
But is this a fixable problem? To my understanding,
I don't know. One thing that was said here tonight that I am sure of is that if you date back 40, 50 years ago before they built those homes, somebody should have raised their hand and said time out.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. And now we're stuck with trying to fix something that I don't know how difficult it's going to be to fix. We have to wait and see. And that's the truth about it.
I can assure you, we're going to make it the very best that's available today to alleviate, address your neighbors' complaints. The mayor gave you an honest statement like I did. 30, 40, 50 years ago, should have said, wait a minute, maybe this is a little bit low back here, we shouldn't be building. And I'm not denying that. But today, the current council wants it addressed, and I can tell you it's my responsibility to make sure it gets done the best way possible and to be frugal when it comes to spending the money. They're not concerned about spending money. If we have to run a new line, that'll be a decision, a recommendation they'll make a decision on. But at this time, we're working on it, and hopefully, George, we can stay on this thing and get Hatchmont to finish this up. We'll get the jetbacks out there, suck out that muck, and complete the mapping and survey, okay?
Well, just one more thing. This thing with these realtors, they're not properly disclosing houses. I understand you could go after them all, but is there anything the county could do to correct that situation so these people aren't misled? Because I got another new neighbor. He's wondering why we went to this meeting. And I didn't have the heart to tell him because he just moved in over the weekend.
Well, I mean, I would assume that when you do and I haven't bought a house in so long, I can't tell you this, but I know there's full disclosure forms. And if I just bought a house over there and I had reason to believe it flooded, I'd be back to the realtor. So I mean, they have to, go
If I
ahead.
may, let me answer that.
Go
Let me
ahead.
answer that question. And when you purchase a house, you always have the right to have inspections done to cover that type of a situation.
Done that.
It should. And if the inspection doesn't reveal something that should have been revealed, then you have a cause of action against the inspector. If the person who owns the house had a known condition that they actively covered up, then you most certainly have the right to go back against the seller for that. And if the realtor had any part to play in that, you certainly would have to be able to include them in that action. But predominantly what you want to do is you want to have an inspector inspect your house for all of those types of problems, any type of construction problems.
And I'm quite aware of that. I've done it here. But none of that was
But
disclosed to me.
they don't always catch it. Sometimes you've got a condition like what you've done, where a owner has had a problem and did everything they could to cover it up so they could sell the house. If you find a condition like that, that you still have a cause of action against that owner for actively covering up what is known as a latent defect.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council?
Just a few words in support of my neighbor Dan. Council has known about the problem for a long time. This study was commissioned almost a year ago. No one put a time constraint to the engineering company as to what date it had to be done. There was no penalty for it not being done by a certain date. Regardless, stuff happens. At present, we have a street that is unsafe. It is crumbling. Grass is growing in the street. It's not a terra firma, it's liquid. All right? The water pipe that was original to the street is about 5 inches down. All right? It sank. I have elderly neighbors that would like to be here. They can't. They can't make it across the street. If I have to take them out in winter, they have to cross that street in case the snow is up on the sidewalk. I can't get them out. That's nice to say it's their problem, but it's our problem. Winter is coming. The study is not done. Whatever is going to be done will take longer than winter. And you can't lay asphalt in the winter anyway. So, time is of the essence. All right, you're talking about health and safety of people. Some of my neighbors can't walk in the street. I can't walk in the street. Jimmy can't drive in the street with his bike safely. All right. So that really it's past time for action. All right. So that anything anyone can do to speed it up would be greatly appreciated.
Sir, can we have your name, please?
Oh, excuse me, Joe Thomas, 307 Roseanne.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scuso, 308 Roseanne. Dan was referring to me when he said the man across the street. My neighbor was the man who had to put in $20,000 worth of work to divert the water. Now, I'm going to go through it again tomorrow. And, I moved in May. What a welcoming I've had. It's just shocking to not know about this fight. I'm just depressed about it all. But anyway, I got to go through with it. But I understand my neighbor. He was allowed to divert his water into the sewage system. I can't verify. I don't know. I just hope I'm allowed the same thing. I don't know. That's about it. But my wife now is suffering with the lung condition because of the mold. I've got to do something with the mold and stuff like that.
And you just moved in May?
May the 6th.
Well, that's a prime, that seems to be something that you should be able to recover from that. I mean, there should have been disclosure on that.
Well, it's true that if a realtor has knowledge of a situation like that, they do have a duty to disclose it. And
It wasn't disclosed, I was,
what, did you have mold prior to moving in?
didn't know it.
Didn't know it? Did you have a home inspection done?
I had a home inspection done, he said, he pointed out, the contract I signed, he pointed out where he doesn't have to tell me about mold. He said that I have to have a mold inspector. He didn't have to tell me about odors, like pet odors, right? He told me, and he got under.
What type of inspector was it?
He was a home inspector,
Construction predominantly?
4th year.
Okay, did he not inspect your foundation and determine that the grade of your property was appropriate and whatnot?
I guess not. He was supposed to come down there because there was water in the crawl space. He was supposed to come back after the owner pumped it out. He never, when I called him to complain about it, he said he never came back because he wasn't called. Now I'm in Pennsylvania.
Well, if you find out that, but for a proper inspection, you purchased a home that had a defect, then you would have a cause of action against that person.
It's a touchy situation because the guy died. It was a short sale, probably in very bad need at the time.
You're talking about your seller.
No, I didn't die.
You're the buyer. You're the buyer.
You're talking about the person.
You're the buyer, we're talking about your seller.
Yeah.
Okay, but the person who performed your inspection made certain promises about that inspection. And you're telling me that one aspect he didn't even inspect, which is really the essence of the problem.
It was strange. He didn't, at the same time, I had a termite inspector. He came back after it was pumped out, but the inspector never came back.
Well, because if he had come back and given a proper inspection and with due care, his opinion would be that this is a problem that cannot be solvable and would probably result in mold, whether it was there already or not. Had that information given to you, you may have decided not to buy. If that's the case,
Yeah.
you might want to seek a consultation of the resident.
No, that's it. Thanks for hearing me.
Sorry for the trouble. I think somebody else wanted to speak, that gentleman back there.
I'm Jack Frederick, and my mother lives at 315 Roseanne Avenue, and I'm speaking on behalf of her tonight. It's true what Dan and Joe have been saying about the water, and yeah, we've been getting a lot of deluge rains lately, and that is part of the problem. Dan was speaking about action to be able to block off the street or blockade or put cones out or even barricades out on the street. That would help quite a bit, because the traffic doesn't slow down there. They continue at 35 miles an hour to get through the water. Creates a wake. The wake comes up the driveway, right underneath the garage door and into the house. So that's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is we can see that the sidewalks are also sinking. You can see where there's some nice level spots and then all of a sudden it'll be low. You can see it more predominantly after everything's drained because you can see all the rust marks coming out onto the road. So those are some of the issues that go along with this pipe. And I would say we need to pick up the pace.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say something real quick? It's not my ward, and Jim's trying to do everything he can there. A little over a year ago, before Jim got in office, this problem was brought to the council. It had been kicked down the road for years. This council started reacting a little over a year ago, trying to get the studies done to find out what we can do for this. This is it's not a new problem, but this is the first time council's actually looking at this. They always, I think we actually used the term kicking it down the road the last time we came up. We're trying to get it done, but we have to wait for proper information. Infrastructure is one of the key things the township has to do for its residents, to keep that intact. We want the problem solved, but we have to make sure we do it right. We may have heard of a mess, but we're going to try to fix it. But it's going to take a little bit of time. We're not going to fix it tomorrow, and the way things are going, it's not going to be fixed by this fall, but we do want to get it fixed. It's highly important to all the council people that we get this done for our residents. No matter what section of the township, it has to be, we have to do something for it.
And the actuality is, we haven't paid for the study yet because we haven't got it completed yet, so we haven't even spent the money. We're begging for the report to come back from them.
Well, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, the council heard you tonight. I heard you. I'm addressing the engineer, the public works director. We're going to stay on this thing to get it done as quick as possible in an expedient manner. That's all I can tell you. We will stay on it. We've heard you. We feel your pain, and we'll stay right on it.
Yes, sir. This gentleman right here.
I brought the map from the last one. The outfall pipe, as the engineer, do you know what the elevation is from the end of it over at the S-curve? Because that water is stagnant, and that covers at least 2/3 of the pipe at all times. So even if you clean that pipe out, you're not going to drain it. It sits there.
In Coxsall Creek?
Yeah.
At the S-curve? That's designed that way. It's not designed to
The water
drain completely.
No, but your 2/3 of the pipe is underwater right now. 2/3 of the pipe is underwater right now.
Right.
So if it rains tomorrow night heavy, you've lost a lot of capacity to handle that rain.
Right. In Coxsall Creek, that pipe was designed that way. The reason being is you want that creek to be tidally flowed. Otherwise, it will.
That's not Coxsall Creek, the end of the outflow.
Oh, I'm mistaken. I was
Yeah,
talking about
Coxsall
the
Creek
S-curve.
is,
You're talking at the end of Clearwater?
That's not the S,
Yeah,
that's
no.
not the S curve.
at
The
the
S
end of
curve is
Clearwater
Oh.
is the outfall pipe.
Right.
That water is stagnant. You can put something in that water and it'll be still sitting there an hour later.
Well, not
So
the
if-
flow takes,
It
it does,
doesn't.
but it's not like you open a gate at the S curve, it's not gonna move that right away.
No, but if the S-curve is the same elevation as your pipe, it's not going to drain out until that water gets up that high. Now, that pipe is 2/3 underwater right now. I live there, I can see it from my back.
The outfall.
The outfall at the end where it's in.
And I think you bring up a good point, because that's what the manager says. We want to be correct when we go in to do anything with this pipe, because if the elevation from Bay Shore Road to the end of your area there where it's outfalling is not pitching the right way, we're going to have backflow all the time.
During that storm the other night, last week, water was actually coming up at Croydon out of the sewer inlets. Because I drove by there and watched the water bubbling up.
Well, that just proves there's blockage.
Yeah, but if you clear all that blockage out and the water's not flowing, and it stays there and that pipe is 2/3 underwater, that sediment's going to build right back up again.
Or some of that pipe
You
may
need
be
a flood.
collapsed and it's flat, and that's why you're on that pitch.
The ends of them were blocked, and that's where the county went in with the big machines
Right.
and pulled some of the stuff away from the ends.
Now, they cleaned out that creek bed, all it does now is just gets higher, and that pipe is underwater with the real heavy rain, so it's completely under. That water should be more of a pitch, so that when it gets to the box culvert at that beach, that culvert should probably be lowered, and that creek bed drained for the next rain.
But I don't know if we have an option to drain that creek out. They took the pumps out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, the way, it has a gate there. I mean, if we can't, that's why you had like a 4-inch rain. If it's a hurricane that's coming, we can close the gate at high tide, which allows the neighborhood to drain into Coxsall Creek with a low tide inside the creek. So when you get something like what took place a couple of weeks ago, which is unanticipated,
Right.
and you might have a full creek before the rain.
But if that creek bed was empty to begin with, the one, not the creek bed, at the end of the outfall at Roseanne,
Right.
if that was empty to begin with, you had a lot more capacity to hold rainwater. If it's 2/3 of the way full right now, and we get a heavy rain tomorrow night, it's not going to take much to flood Roseanne.
You're talking about the pipe itself,
The pipe
being still full. Yeah, I'm not arguing that. I'm talking about whether it has the ability to drain into the Coxsall Creek area.
It needs to be more of a slope down to the bay.
And probably, it's quite possible you're right. I mean,
And I think that's our study, and that's why we're waiting for the study to come back, so it'll give us the good numbers,
Go ahead.
for drainage, because you're right, it has to drain away.
Yeah, it's approximately the same height as the S-curve.
Right.
When you look at the maps and the GPS and all that. Yeah, it's about 8 feet. There's no tilt. So the box culvert underneath the beach, if that was lower, the water level would actually flow out. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else, this gentleman here.
Needed his name.
The gentleman that just spoke, what was your name, sir?
Oh, Jim O'Reilly.
Jim O'Reilly. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening. My name is Nick Kaltnecker, 312 Suzanne Avenue, North Cape May. I was here a year ago and I heard your report on the problems that occurred, the survey that was conducted at that point in time, the recognition of the sediment in the pipes under the street, the efforts by the divers to measure the extent of that, the plans that were being done, and the efforts that were outlined going forward. I'm coming back a year later. I'm hearing essentially the same thing. We got another study. We're one of 2 houses out of 7 in our immediate area that have been fortunate not to have any damage. Although we've had water right up to the house, and that can change next week. The thing I didn't hear, quite frankly, was that you have another survey, and McDonald apparently is behind schedule, if I understand, because of Hurricane Sandy. I didn't hear any new target date. What's the deliverable? Is there a schedule for correcting this problem, or is it just basically kicking the can down the road?
Number one, it's not another study. Last year, after council authorized it, we had a diver go in so far, and then he realized that there's blockage, there's problems, and I don't know what degree it was at that time. We're trying to correct it now. That's why they authorized the mapping and survey, so that we know what we're dealing with. I'm not an engineer. I'm not in the design of engineering, pipes and stuff. These guys know what they're doing. But we have to know, we have to have the survey and all. We got to know where it's sinking. We got to know, they have a map of this whole thing. They're telling me before we go forward to correct the situation. After tonight, I don't think there's going to be any delays. I have any doubts about that because the council's heard it, and I know they're going to be on me to get this thing done. And I can't give you a target date until we get something back from the consulting engineer, Hatchmont McDonald, tell us what we have. Then I'll sit down with the Township Director of Public Works, our engineer. I'll even consult with the MUA, who's a good engineer that works with us, to see what's the best way to alleviate the problem. One thing we know, and we're going to do that as soon as possible, and that's to suck out some of that muck and sand so they complete their mapping and survey. That's going to be done. And the MUA has offered to help us do that. So, but I'd be pulling a number out of the sky to tell you when it's going to be complete. I just don't know.
Sucking out the
muck.
dirt and the muck was identified last year. And I'm trying to understand what's changed between last year and now, a year later.
Gary, Mr. Douglas here, our director, he can explain more what has been done.
Yeah.
We'll clarify what Hatchmont has to come back in and do. I do have a meeting scheduled on Monday the 12th. It's not so much suck the muck out of the pipe. It's to suck some of the dirt and debris out of a lot of our culverts so they can get a true reading on the survey. And then they'll complete their mapping. So what we're going to do to take these, as you say, the jetbacks and everything, is not going to alleviate any of the drainage at this point. It's just going to enable them to finish the survey, get the elevations. And I can clarify a couple things. It's known that most of that pipe is underwater. So that's why we're not jumping to conclusions to go in there and just replace the pipe, because you can put a new pipe in there and it's going to be full of water. The relationship to that pipe, the outfall at Clearwater and the bayfront, you know, there's pitch, water levels itself. So the outfall at Coxall Creek on the bayfront is at an elevation that some of that pipe on Roseanne is below that. So it's lower, so it's not going to drain uphill. They're the issues we know we have. But without the survey, some of the delay is, as you know, we went with an in-house. We hired George on staff, so it was sort out the projects that we could handle in-house or spend the time, you know, and that includes, you know, that area, a lot of surveying and stuff. So we don't have them tools and equipment at this point. So George and the manager and myself on a lot, we evaluated all them projects, and now we know what projects that we're going to look for outside engineering and everything. So that tied up a little bit of the process. In the meantime, you know, we got hit with Sandy, and they're busy, so we got to schedule this in. But I will tell you, I'm meeting with them on Monday the 12th, and they're going to give me the areas that we need cleaned out so their surveying crew can get in there and complete the mapping. So I don't think that's far off the mapping. Now, what the answer is after that, you know, no one knows. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
I accept the statement that he made, but keep in mind, you still haven't heard a date. It's open-ended, and this problem, if we have another major storm coming up, a hurricane, it's not going to get any better. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Bill Rogers, Roseanne Avenue, North Cape, Maine. We pretty much, what that gentleman just said, we heard the same thing last year as we're hearing this tonight, all right? Roseanne Avenue was underwater. My property value went from $250,000 to $125,000 because of the water. And I think we need something done. I think we demand something done. And I think we deserve it as taxpayers. And this company that's doing the survey, let them get off of their ass and do it. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else wish to address council? Yes, sir.
My name's David McBride. I live 314 Suzanne Avenue. I want to address this. Well, first of all, I have a picture of the last storm. Does any of you gentlemen want to see what the block looks like? It's pretty serious. It's very serious. You can't come down this block. And although we've examined the problem and talked about it, and this gentleman, Gary, returned a call to me a year ago, and that was the first time I was able to understand how serious the problem was and complicated. But I'm hearing the same exact thing today that I heard. And when I moved in here, this is our 5th summer. The first year we were here, I went down to try to get an answer. I went down to where the trash place is, Gary Douglas's office. And what I was told is pretty much, when I went back, spoke to my neighbors, I thought I had some good information. They all said the same thing. We've been told that for years. It's no different, and nothing's being done. Now, we've talked about the problem extensively, but no one's brought up the aspect of if there's an emergency and someone has to come down that block to rescue somebody. I have a mother-in-law that lives with us who has a bad heart. I have a bad heart. I couldn't get my car out of the driveway. There was no way. And any time lost for an emergency vehicle to respond, it's going to be a legal problem. And I'm going to hold the township responsible. We have to get moving on this issue.
I was down there during the storm. I just have one question. How long does it take for that water to recede after the storm?
Hour, 20 minutes after the storm, it'll start to go down. The drain does not work until at least an hour and 20 minutes.
About an hour.
On a heavy rain.
I mean, you know.
And usually when I see the township come down the block, it's well after the water is going down.
It was still raining when that was at the very end of the storm when I rode over there. And it's,
So you couldn't have came down the block then?
I didn't. I stopped. I saw the water, and I didn't want to try and make it through there.
Yeah, I mean, every year it has gotten worse, which we've all said. And
well, the point is not to interrupt you, but like we said here, this problem, as we all recognize, has been there for many, many years. There was no money spent on this thing until last year about this time. Now, we kind of get hung out to dry a little bit by not having the engineer's report, but I can guarantee you that tomorrow morning, the manager will be on the phone with them.
yeah, and maybe a deadline when having that report in. When it was signed, maybe there should have been a deadline of 6 months, 8 months. It must be done by this date. People are waiting.
Right.
And you know what
And
I
that's
think?
what I haven't heard.
I think if I'm hearing right too, that we should be proactive on the police side as far as putting some cones out.
Notices, something.
Putting some cones out so people don't go down that road that don't live there to try and create weight that's gonna cause damage to people's property.
I know what you're talking about, the weight.
And I think maybe we ought to, get a hold of, Town Bank
But
Fire
it
Department.
was necessary for me to replace
Right.
the floor in the 2 rooms downstairs. I re-waterproofed the entire outside of the house. But I was shocked when the last storm still came up and around my house. And no one was of the opinion it was any reason other than the drainage system. And even you mentioned the landscaper across the street, John.
John McDonald, yeah.
Right, an excellent neighbor. I mean, it was around his house. I don't see how he could say it's getting better.
Well, he said it was draining better. He thought it was draining better than it. Listen, we have so many unknowns here.
Yeah.
But we are going to stay on it. Believe me, we hear you. I'm sure you're going to hear more about it from the
It
council.
just sounds like you need more deadlines.
Well,
you know.
tomorrow we're going to ask for one.
Right.
Because normally, I'll be honest with you, normally something like this should have took maybe 6 months. But then whatever happened in between this storm, Sandy, that's just the honest truth. Like Joe Friday, all I can do is give you the facts. Sir.
I think we've made our point.
You did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council? Yes, sir.
Jack Frederick again. One thing that I've noticed with this township, and I'm sure it's probably with many townships in New Jersey, is that you rake your leaves to the curb. Well, those become part of the problem. When the rains come, it washes the leaves into the gutter, goes right down to the storm drain, clogs up the storm drain. Then we see a few days later somebody's out cleaning out the storm drain. Or we clean it out ourselves to make sure that the water drains. Wouldn't it be better if you bag the leaves and pick them up maybe once every 2 weeks? I think that's pretty easy. It probably cost the township a whole lot less than to try to vac them out of the gutter when they don't come around for a month or so after you've got them down there.
Gary? Here's the expert on leaves. Sure, come on, don't be bashful.
Good idea, but impossible. We can't cover the township in 2 weeks, we can't cover the township in 2 months, with our manpower and our equipment. We've invested in the back trucks for leaves, so that's the method to get it picked up the quickest. Me and Mike's had conversations about what do we do, can we get code enforcement involved after our schedule's through, can we go? I mean, it's a never-ending battle with leaves.
Right.
And a lot of neighborhoods we have the same problem. It's clogging up our storm drains because they put them out during the period when it's unscheduled. They just go and put them out when we're not in their neighborhood, and it's clogging up the storm drains.
Well, the storms and the rainfall we've had in the last 2 or 3 months, I mean, the whole township's been a mess. I understand this area has been a problem for a while, but I mean, the pipes only hold so much capacity, so if you get that 2 inches of rain in a matter of 6 or 8 hours, I mean, we can design all the pipes we want, but we can't design an underground storage tank. So, heavy rainfall, you're gonna back up anyhow.
We've had problems in Diamond Beach, we've had problems in Town Bank, we've had problems in North Cape May. And the volume of water that's coming down in these storms is unbelievable. And yes, they do have an area, and we're concentrating on working on getting that work done down there as quickly as possible. But we do have it all over with these types of rainstorms. They're unprecedented.
If I can just add, we haven't neglected the problem. We had a plan, 5, 6, 8 years ago, and it was an outline of maybe a possible pump station at the end of Clearwater and Roseanne. Then it was determined if we pumped the water out of that pipe, the condition of that pipe might have started collapsing sidewalks and in some cases, foundations. So we had to step back and be cautious on that. And I understand some of the residents got up here and said they heard the same story a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. It is moving forward. you're talking not only what I call the Bayshore West section there. We found out, I don't know, right before we put Hatchmont on hold for a section of time, that even the east side of Bayshore Road, all of Schooner Landing, Bayshore East drains that way. So that's something we didn't know before. So that's why this mapping is taking a little bit longer. So we just got to get we got to get the mapping and the surveying done right, so then we can come up with a conclusive answer. Timeline, I couldn't tell you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address council?
Hello, my name is Peter Wilson. I'm owner of North End Thrift, 901 Bayshore Road in the Gulls. I'm a member of Lower Township Chamber of Commerce, Cape May County Chamber of Commerce. My kids go to Lower Township. My family owns a home in Lower Township. I moved to Lower Township in 1989. My concern is this, that, I'm a 100% supporter of Lower Township. Lower Township kind of gets a bad shake of the stick because we're on the wrong side of the parkway. We're not an island community. I've done a tremendous amount of advertising for my business. I have billboards. I do TV commercials. I do radio commercials. I advertise through the Shoppy, the Gazette, the Herald. I've had articles in Atlantic City Press. I basically buy content of homes. I recycle, reuse, repurpose items. There's a big call for my business, and my business has exploded. I'm trying to expand. Last year we had some issues about items being left outside and that I display outside furniture. I've received tickets for my furniture outside. I've received tickets for my signs. I've been told to take commercials off the air, and I don't really feel like I've been supported by Lower Township the way I support this town, because I really like Lower Township. I've placed a bid on a building outside of Lower Township because I feel like I haven't had the opportunity to do a business the way that other people in the town, like right now there's a tent sale going on and outside furniture, but there's no tickets being involved there. If you go down Bayshore Road, you will see all the different businesses with their furniture and clothing at the consignment shops, the coin shops, the dollar stores, Sears Hardware. Like, all these places have their items outside, but I've been selectively chosen to be ticketed. And I just want to say that I'm concerned about this, and if I'm not welcome in Lower Township, I will leave Lower Township. I have 4 employees. They have kids that go to school in Lower Township. I have retired people that work for me. I have a Christmas tree program where I give away free Christmas trees to the community. I think I do very good, positive things for this town, and I don't really feel the support that I think I deserve. I've been informed that I cannot sell gold and silver because I don't have the precious metal license to buy it. But if you go into several, and I've pointed this out to the police department, several other shops in Lower Township, they sell gold and silver and they do not have the license. And they've never been, if you're going to tell me I can't sell a collectible coin that has any silver content in it, I mean, are you going to drive everybody out of this community who wants to have a business? An antique or an estate ring, are you going to tell an antique shop that they can't sell it because they don't have the gold and silver license? Because there are several businesses that sell gold and silver that do not have a precious metal license.
Well, Mr. Wilson,
there's a coin club that operated for years, and they still sell and buy coins through a club, and it's violating the precious metal laws, which are very specific.
Mr. Wilson, if you would share your concerns with our clerk tomorrow about these others that are buying and selling precious metals. We would appreciate knowing that. Nobody's discriminating against you. You know, we've had challenges and issues with you in the past. You've called me several weeks ago and apologized for some of the things in the past that have went on, and you want to move forward. We support good business in this township. I've committed to work with you. When you called me and said, put things behind us, whatever violations you had, you dealt with them. I took you at your word. We want to support your business like every other business. However, Bay Shore Road and all the different areas that do commercial businesses, we're trying to keep it neat, clean, in a nice, safe, and clean environment. We're trying to attract more people in the lower township. We're trying to attract more businesses on Bay Shore Road. And you've committed that you're going to do it in the future. And my office is going to work with you like every other business person, and this council supports it if we do things in a nice way. And that's what I thought you're going to do for the future. So whatever happened in the past, we dealt with that. I'm not going to discuss it tonight because it's not for public discussion, but I took it your word that you want to move forward.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the support, and I hope that I can move forward and continue to do good things in Lower Township. That is my concern, that, you know, I recently paid the ticket for the furniture, and I have no issue with that. I could move forward, but, you know, I was told in 30 days I need to have everything inside. So I'm just hoping that there can be some type of agreement that, you know, within reason, items can be outside, and
well,
because without it, it's really difficult for me.
We're glad that your business is doing well. I'm glad. We're glad. Council's glad, I'm sure. However, we have to keep things in a neat and organized manner. I mean, I went by there last weekend, stuff was all the way up into the parking lot and stuff. What the last discussion I had was several months ago with you was keep a clear aisle so people can walk down the front of those businesses there and keep the stuff in a neat. We can't have it all over parking spaces. Anyway, we can talk about this tomorrow. If you have any questions, we want to work with you, Mr. Wilson.
Well, that's all
I believe you tonight when you say you want to work with this council, you want to do the right things, as you did when you called me a few weeks ago. So if you have any issues, before you get involved with any issues with our code enforcement, call my office or stop by. I'll work with you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else wish to address council? Close the public portion.
Resolution number 2013-220, a resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. This is to discuss possible litigation, Cape May's attempt to withdraw from the Lower Cape May Regional School District, tax issues, a possible creation of an economic development zone, and an update on litigation, Lower Township versus Baldini.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve? Motion session.
Second. Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?